Shalom and good morning. Sorry I'm late, guys. So if you're new to the channel, obviously we only have a couple people in the chat right now, but if you're watching later and you're new, welcome. My name is Jerry. Welcome to Sanctified Supply Co YouTube channel. We are reading through the Bible, and we are in the book of First Kings. Sorry, I just woke up a few minutes ago, so bear with me. Shalom. Un poco de todo con shalom. I probably messed that up, but welcome. Shalom. Yeah, sleepy boy. Right, exactly. Uh Man, classic. Didn't hear my alarm go off. Morning. Good morning, Sawson. Welcome. So I'm going to be reading out of the TS 2009 version of the scriptures, and we're in chapter I believe we're in chapter 3. I got it set on chapter 2 right now. All right, there we go. Let me just make sure I'm going to go down to the bottom of chapter 2. Yeah. All right, chapter 3. And Solomon joined in marriage with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took the daughter of Pharaoh and brought her to the city of David until he had completed building his own house, and the house of Yahuwah, and the wall around Jerusalem. Only the people slaughtered at the high places for a house for a name of Yahuwah had not been built until those days. And Solomon loved Yahuwah, walking in the laws of his father David, except that he slaughtered and burned incense at the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to slaughter there, for that was a great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 ascending offerings on that slaughter place. At Gibeon, Yahuwah appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and Elohim said, "Ask what I should give you." And Solomon said, "You have shown great loving commitment to your servant David my father, as he walked before you in truth and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with you. And you have guarded for him this great loving commitment, and did give him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Yahuwah my Elohim, you have set up your servant to reign instead of my father David. But I am a little child, I do not know how to go out or to come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. Shall you then give your servant an understanding heart to rule your people, to discern between good and evil? For who is able to rule this great people of yours?" And the word was good in the eyes of Yahuwah, that Solomon had asked this. So Elohim said to him, "Because you have asked this, and have not asked long life for yourself, nor have asked riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself discernment to understand right ruling. See, I shall do according to your words. See, I shall give you a wise and understanding heart, so that there is none like you before you, and none like you shall arise after you. And I shall also give you what you have not asked, both riches and esteem, so that there shall not be anyone like you among the kings all your days. And if you walk in my ways, to guard my laws and my commandments, as your father David walked, then I shall prolong your days." And Solomon awoke, and see, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, and offered up ascending offerings and made peace offerings. And he made a feast for all his servants. Then 2 women, whores, came to the king and stood before him. And one woman said, "O my master, this woman and I dwell in the same house, and I gave birth while she was in the house. And it came to be the third day after I had given birth that this woman also gave birth, and we were together. There was no one else with us in the house, only the two of us in the house. Then this woman's son died in the night, because she lay on him. And she arose up in the middle of the night, and took my son from my side while your female servant slept, and laid him in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And I arose up in the morning to nurse my son, and saw he was dead. But I looked at him closely in the morning, and saw he was not my son, whom I had born. And the other woman said, No, but the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son. And the first woman said, No, for the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son. And they spoke before the king. And the king said, The one says, This is my son who lives, and your son is the dead one, while the other says, No, for your son is the dead one, and my son is the living one. And the king said, Bring me a sword. So they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in two, and give half to one and half to the other. And the woman whose son was living spoke to the king, for she was overcome with compassion for her son. And she said, O my master, give her the living child, and by no means kill him. But the other said, Let him be neither mine nor hers, but divide him. And the king answered and said, Give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him. She is the mother. And all Israel heard of the right ruling which the king had rendered, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of Elohim was in him to do right ruling. Chapter 4. And it came to be that King Solomon was king over all Israel. And these were his chief officials: Azariah, son of Zadok the priest, Elihoreph, and Eliha, uh, sorry, Ahiah, sons of Shisha, scribes, Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, the recorder, and Benayahu, son of Jehoiada, over the army of Zadok, and Abiathar the priests, and Azariah, son of Nathan, over the officers, Zabud, son of Nathan, a priest, friend of the king, and Ahashar over the household, and Adoniram, son of Abda, over the compulsory labor. And Solomon had 12 governors over all Israel, who provided food for the king and his household. Each one made provisions for one new moon of the year. And these were their names: Ben-Hur in the mountains of Ephraim, Ben-Deker in Makatz, and Sha'albim, and Beth Shemesh, and Elon Beth Hanan, Ben-Hesed in Araboth, Soko, and all the land of Hefer were his. Ben-Abinadab, all the height of Dor, Taphath, the daughter of Solomon, became his wife. Bear with me with these names, guys. Um, I can't just glaze over them. I have to try to read them correctly for some reason, even though I'm probably not. But Anna, son of Ahilud, in Taanach, and Megiddo, and all Beth Shean, which is beside Serathon, below Yezreel, from Beth Shean to Abel Meholah, as far as the other side of Jokneam, Ben Geber in Ramoth Gilead, the towns of Yair, son of Manasseh in Gilead were his, and the portion of Argob in Bashan, 60 large cities with walls and bronze gate bars were his. Ahinadab, son of Edo in Mahanaim, Ahimaatz in Naphtali, he also took Basemath, the daughter of Solomon, as wife. Baanah, son of Hushai, in Asher and in Aloth. Jehoshaphat, son of Paruah, in Issachar. Shimi, son of Elah, in Benjamin. Geber, son of Uri, in the land of Gilead. In the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and of Gog, king of Bashan, and one governor was in the land. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand by the sea, eating and drinking and rejoicing. I can just hear my dogs barking out there. Sorry. And Solomon was ruling over all reigns from the river to the land of the Philistines, as far as the border of Mitzrayim. They did task work and served Solomon all the days of his life. And Solomon's food supply for one day was 30 cores of fine flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 fatted cattle and 20 cattle from the pastures, and 100 sheep besides deer and gazelles and roebucks and fatted fowl, excuse me. For he was ruling over all on this side of the river of Sifsah, even to Asa, over all the kings on this side of the river, and he had peace on all sides round about him. And Judah and Israel dwelt safely, each man under his vine and his fig tree, from Dan as far as Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. And Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. And these governors, each one in his new moon, provided food for King Solomon and for all who came to the table of King Solomon. There was no lack in their supply. They also brought barley and straw to the appointed place for the horses and steeds, each one according to his right ruling. And Elohim gave Solomon exceeding great wisdom and understanding, and largeness of heart like the sand of the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the men of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt. And he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Haman, and Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol. And his name was in all the nations round about. And he spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And he spoke of trees, from the cedar tree of Lebanon even to the hyssop that springs out of the wall. And he spoke of beasts and of birds, and of creeping creatures, and of fish. And there came from all peoples, from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom, to hear the wisdom of Solomon. That's really interesting. It makes me wonder if it was just like information, like he just knew about all the animals and plants and like he just had understanding, or was there like parabolic significance that he was able to draw from that understanding? Because wisdom, I don't just think of knowing a bunch of factoids, but being wise is like seeing beyond the surface of things, like, consider the ant, and then you have through Yah's creation, you have understanding of like deeper concepts. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm diving too deep on that one. But we're in chapter 5. I'm going to pause just real quick. Say hello in the chat. Jared Bryan, shalom. Richard Barber, my home is starting the King David series this evening. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've been seeing that pop up. I think Lucia watched the first episode of it. Thank you, Saucin. Yeah, it's nice to be doing this again. I am embarrassingly inconsistent at this, so I'm really trying to get disciplined. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me, especially like being 15 minutes late. But I'd rather show up 15 minutes late and be humbled than just not do it. So here we are. Palmetto Paratrooper, shalom, brother. Little reflection on Abraham's covenant. Yeah, yeah. There's it says Israel and Judah were as numerous as the sand of the sea. So that that's coming to fruition. I think everyone struggles with names. I still need to work on my reading the Bible in Spanish. Conversation Spanish is fluent, but the proper Spanish and some biblical vocab lacks. Yeah, I would love to learn Spanish. I only speak just, enough to find the bathroom and get something to eat, but I love the idea of being able um to witness to folks. I watch a couple of YouTube channels where they do journalism and they go to all kinds of different countries and are able to, you know, get current events, like actually talk to people and find out how their state of living is or whatever. But Hmm. Josiah, shalom, brother. Good to see you. We gave your YouTube a shout out the other day. Think you got a few more subs that are going to be looking forward to seeing some of your music coming out. If you guys aren't already, check out Josiah Hickman. He's very talented worshiper. He writes original music and worships Yah through song. I'm not sure what just happened. I just removed myself from the studio. Here we are. Okay. Share my screen again. Sorry guys. Back to our regularly scheduled program. All right. Chapter 5. Josiah, what's your channel? How do I do this? Here, I'll share his channel real quick. One second. Yeah, he really does have great music. Uh he does a few cover songs too that really really awesome. Okay. Where's my subscriptions? There we go. Josiah. Excuse me. Hickman. Sorry, this will take just a second, but it's worth it. Boom. Shoot. I'm not very good at doing this stuff. Here we go. I'm going to share this most recent video. Share. Copy. You guys have probably already figured it out over here. Yeah, Palmetto, you're on top of it. I should have known. Thank you, bro. Okay, so Palmetto put this in the chat, and if that one doesn't work, this one should work too. Okay, cool. All right. Back to it. Yeah, probably. I bet there are uh many people wishing to learn Spanish. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's cool. The idea of having of knowing a second language. My best friend growing up is Spanish speaking. Um all right, chapter 5. And Hiram, king of Sor, sent his servants to Solomon because he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father. For Hiram had always loved David. And Solomon went to Hiram, saying, "You know, my father David was unable to build a house for the name of Yahuwah his Elohim because of the battles which were all around him, until Yahuwah put them under the soles of his feet. But now Yahuwah my Elohim has given me rest all around. There is neither adversary nor evil incident. And see, I intend to build a house for the name of Yahuwah my Elohim, as Yahuwah spoke to my father David, saying, Your son, whom I sent on your throne in your place, he does build the house for my name. And now command that they cut down cedars for me from Lebanon, and let my servants be with your servants, and let me pay your wages for your servants according to whatever you say. For you know there is none among us who knows to cut timber like the Sidonians. And it came to be when Hiram heard the words of Solomon that he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be Yahuwah this day, for he has given David a wise son over this great people. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have heard that which you sent me. Let me do all you desire concerning the cedar and cypress logs. Let my servants bring them down from Lebanon to the sea. Then I put them in rafts by sea to the place you direct me, and I shall spread them out there. Then you take them up while you do my desire by giving food for my house. And Hiram gave Solomon cedar and cypress logs, all his desire. And Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat as food for his household and 20 cores of pressed oil. Thus Solomon gave to Hiram year by year. And Yahuwah gave Solomon wisdom, as he promised. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a covenant. And King Solomon raised up compulsory labor out of all Israel. And the compulsory labor was 30,000 men. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 per new moon by courses. And they were one new moon in Lebanon, 2 new moons at home, and Adoniram was over the compulsory labor. I don't know, but when I hear compulsory labor, I think of like slaves. Like this is I don't know. I don't know exactly what compulsory means, I guess, but seems like I don't know, forced labor maybe. Verse 15, and Solomon had 20,000 bearing burdens, and 80,000 hewing stone in the mountains. Besides 3,300 from the chiefs of Solomon, deputies who were over the work, those ruling over the people who labored in the work. And the king commanded, and they brought large stones, precious stones, to lay the foundation of the house with hewn stones. And Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the men of Gebal did hew, and prepared timber and stones to build the house. Chapter 6. chapter 6. And it came to be in the 480th year after each of the and it came to be in the 480th year after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, in the 4th year of the reign of Solomon over Israel, in the new moon of Ziu, which is the second new moon, that he began to build the house of Yahuwah. And the house which King Solomon built for Yahuwah was 60 cubits long and 20 wide and 30 cubits high. And the porch at the front of the Hekal, the temple of the house, was 20 cubits long, according to the breadth of the house, and its width 10 cubits, and its from the front of the house. And he made for the house windows with narrowed frames, and against the wall of the house he built rooms all around. Against the walls of the house, and against the walls of the house he built rooms all around against the walls of the house, all around the Hekal and the speaking place. Thus he made side rooms all around. The lowest side room was 5 cubits wide, and the middle one was 6 cubits wide, and the third one was 7 cubits wide. For he made narrow ledges around the outside of the house, so as not to lay hold on the walls of the house. And the house, when it was being built, was built with finished stone, made ready beforehand, so that no hammer or chisel or any iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. The doorway for the middle side room was on the right side of the house, and they went up by stairs to the middle side rooms, and from the middle to the third. So he built the house and completed it, and he paneled the house with beams and boards of cedar. And he built the side rooms of the structure against all the house, each 5 cubits high, and they were fastened to the house with cedar beams. And the word of Yahuwah came to Solomon, saying, This house which you are building, if you walk in my laws and do my right rulings, and shall guard all my commands, and walk in them, then I shall confirm my word with you, which I spoke to your father David. Seems like that's always kind of part of the agreement. If you walk in my laws and do my right rulings, and shall guard all my commands and walk in them, then I shall confirm my word with you, which I spoke to your father David, and shall dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and completed it. And he built the walls of the house inside with cedar boards, and the floor of the house to the ceiling he paneled them on the inside with wood, and covered the floor of the house with planks of cypress. And he built 20 cubits at the rear of the house, from floor to the walls, with cedar boards. And he built it inside as the speaking place, as the most set apart place. And the house was 40 cubits. It is the Hekal before it. And the cedar of the house inside was carved with ornaments and open flowers. All was cedar, not a stone was seen. And he prepared the speaking place in the midst of the house to place the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah there. And the front of the speaking place, real quick, I want to pause. So he built the inside as the speaking place, as the most set apart place, and the house was 40 cubits, and it is the Hekal before it. And the cedars for the house inside was carved with ornaments and open flowers, all with cedar, not a stone was seen. I'm not sure why this stood out to me, but I think of like the acoustics in there because it's all wood. It's not going to be like echoey like a stone room would be. And I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken, but didn't he say that was the speaking place? Um I don't know. Maybe it was all wood on the inside for the insulative properties of wood. I don't know. I haven't been awake long enough. I'm drawing things out of the scripture that may be insignificant at this time. Verse 19. And he prepared the speaking place in the midst of the house to place the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah there. Speaking of insulative properties, some speculate that the ark of the covenant was a conductor of some sorts. I don't have a strong opinion on that topic. I've not really looked too much into it. But if you know anything about that, we could chat after we're done with this chapter. I think we're going to wrap up. Verse 20, and the front of the speaking place was 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide and 20 cubits high. And he overlaid it with refined gold and overlaid the slaughter place of cedar. And Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with refined gold and made gold chains pass over the front of the speaking place and overlaid it with gold. Thus he overlaid the entire house with gold until the entire house was completed, and the entire slaughter place that was by the speaking place he overlaid with gold. And inside the speaking place he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, 10 cubits high. And one wing of the cherub was 5 cubits, and the other wing of the cherub 5 cubits, 10 cubits from the tip of the one wing to the tip of the other. And the other cherub was 10 cubits. Both cherub were of the same size and shape. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was the other cherub. And he placed the cherub in the midst of the inner house, and they stretched out their wings of the cherub so that the wing of the one touched one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. And their wings touched each other in the middle of the room. And he overlaid the cherub with gold. And he carved all the walls of the house all around, both inside and outside, with carved figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers. And he overlaid the floor of the house with gold, inside and outside. And for the entrance of the speaking place, he made doors of olive wood, the lintel doorposts a fifth. And 2 doors were of olive wood, and he carved on them figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. And he spread the gold of the cherubim, and he spread the gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. And so he made doorposts for the door of the hekal of olive wood, a 4th part. And the 2 doors were of cypress wood, the 2 leaves of the one folded, the 2 leaves of the other door folded. And he carved cherubim and palm trees and open flowers and overlaid them with gold, laid smoothly on the carved work. And he built the inner courtyard with 3 rows of hewn stone and a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year, the foundation of the house of Yahuwah was laid in the month of Ziv, I don't know how to say that. And on the 11th year, in the month Bul, the 8th new moon, the house was completed, and in all its matters, and according to all its plans. Thus he built it for 7 years. So perhaps the inside of the building was made entirely of wood because it was going to be overlaid with gold. It has nothing to do with the acoustics. I don't know. JS Genesis, you're learning Heblish. It's good. Okay, so I'll read some of these chats and catch up here. Divinely blessed design, shalom. Still working on English, yeah. That's what it that's what it means. That must have been, I don't know, about the call or something. GR Cleve, have been listening, not chatting. All good, all good. I was just reading in First Samuel, the new moon celebration was significant to when David cut Saul's robe and let him live. That's interesting. It also seems like Yah often make a promise to you and deliver on that promise to your descendants, meaning he considers them to be you. Yeah, it's interesting also, the vices are habits, and um, you know, those things will be passed down in the form of like curses on our generations. So yeah, it how we how we operate 100% affects them in like a more significant way, I think, than we could imagine. Go Yeah, so thank you, JS Genesis. That's goes along with curses as well. Yep. Cedar also uh repels quite a few pesky insects. That's very true. Yeah. I'm working with cedar boards right now and uh using them for a chicken coop, which I don't think they care. They like bugs, but shadow of the temple within us, those in our lives given to us as talents, silver line in the temple. Yeah, there's a lot of significance. I think that we can draw out layers and layers of depth of meaning from all kinds of passages in scripture. It's amazing. Sounds very large. Yeah, this is a big uh big undertaking, the whole Hakal. So he spent what did it say? 6 days. Um, hold on. How long did it take him to do this? Said right at the end. 7 years, 6 days. It took him 7 years to build this temple. Um, I think it took him like 14 years or something. I can't remember the number, but took him 14 years to build his own house. Now I wonder if it was because of how intentional he was being with the build of the temple. As they mentioned that not even a single tool was seen in the temple. So, I mean, think of this construction site where it's quiet and clean, and they're just assembling the temple, you know. Think like clicking Legos together. They're over here just assembling. Jimmy Carr, shalom, brother. Cedar juniper in the USA is a different wood tree in the Middle East. Oh, that's interesting. Didn't know that. But olive wood, right, is probably same. Yes, that is interesting. I agree. Wood is an insulator, but gold is a conductor, right? So just like with most conductive things like wires or whatever, we put an insulative barrier around it to protect that. But they have the conductive material on the inside of the wood. So this room is, I don't know, that's beyond my understanding. I'm not very savvy with electrician things. I don't know how to put that. Interesting, as we are commanded not to make any graven images. Just realized that. Yeah, well, I don't think that this is considered a graven image, or else Yah would be contradicting his own commandments. A graven image would be something that we produce um, to worship something other than Yah, um, in my opinion. Not that we should make idols, or statues and bow down. I don't think that that was um the point of having the cherubim in the temple. But that is an um interesting point you make. Compulsory labor definitely means slavery. Okay, cool. I mean, not cool, but I thought so. Soundbite me on this video. Oh yeah, slavery, cool. Apparently 27 kinds of cedar trees. Wow. Shalom, Brian. You probably get a lot more help building a temple than you do building your own house. That's for sure. Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking too, is like there was a I mean, they had a solid game plan. Uh when doing your own projects, you kind of I don't know, he didn't lack for materials, so he could have probably made it happen. But I'll have to look into this because I think it's possible that his house was just like a bit more extravagant than even the temple was. I don't know. I think that that was my understanding. Leviticus 18:6 confirms that Yah considers all of your relatives your own flesh. Very cool. I'm gonna jump over there and we're gonna read that real quick. I'm gonna write down that I'm on chapter 7. First Kings chapter 7. All right. What'd you say over here? Leviticus 18:6. Let's check it out. All right. Leviticus 18:6. No one is to approach anyone of his own flesh to uncover his nakedness. I am Yahuwah. The nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother you do not uncover. She is your mother. You do not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of your father's wife you do not uncover. It is your father's nakedness. The nakedness of your sister, the daughter of your father or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or elsewhere, their nakedness you do not uncover. Yeah, don't be, you know, don't uncover anybody's nakedness. Don't do it. Not of your family. I'm not sure that no one is. It does say no one is to approach anyone of his own flesh. Okay, so I got where you're coming from. Got it. I was just thinking some people don't think we should have ev- even angel figurines or such. Yeah, I mean, if it's question, so here's where I stand on things. If you are doing your best to live and operate within the guides of scripture and you don't and you're not well, first of all, we should study to show ourselves approved and work out our salvation with fear and trembling and study the word to know what is acceptable in his sight and what's not. So that's on each of us individually. Praise the most high, we have the word and we can read it and study it. But I also believe if you have a conviction on a topic, let's say a woman feels as if it's a sin to wear pants. This is a conversation, right? People talk about this topic. I don't have a horse in the race on this one. Okay. But I do say if you are going against your own convictions, then to you it is sin. Because if you know to do right and you don't do it, to you it's sin. Okay. And if you make a covenant with Yah and you break that covenant, it's a sin to you, even if it's not commanded in Torah. So you have to stand by what you promise the Most High. So if you say, I'm not gonna build any figurines anymore, ever, for any purpose. I don't know. But certainly I try to stay away from that line of what's acceptable and unacceptable. I will just avoid doing it. But if I was to impose that dogma on other people, that's how you end up with like Talmudic practices where they build a fence over here to keep from crossing the line that is clearly defined in scripture. And then they enforce that fence on the rest of uh, their peers. And that becomes a law. Yeah, slavery and servanthood are night and day differences. Very true. Often slavery gave people a better life covering than they would have had otherwise. That's why at the end of the 7 years, people would decide to stay. 100%. Yeah, slavery would be like having an employer that also offers you room and board for your service. Um, but there's a contract. You work for me for 7 years. But there's also stipulations. If you marry one of my servants, if you leave without your children and without your wife that you married. But if you stay, you become indentured servants. Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I don't think that there was guidelines. You're not you're not allowed to be like harsh. There's Torah lets us know, that there's a way that you conduct yourself with man, even with your servants. The Amish rally around to erect structures needed. Yeah, I know the Amish have a very admirable community in many aspects. Yep, or servanthood, as JS Genesis pointed out. Yep, I've had employers that I didn't want to leave, and I was serving them. I was helping them build their agenda, their whatever it was that they wanted to build. I was helping them accomplish their goal, but they treated me really well, and I appreciated working for them. Yeah, they're what you don't see the word employee a lot in scripture, so you kind of have to understand that language was being used differently then, and it's been translated to modern English, and a lot of the nuances of what was going on there have been lost through translation. Yeah, and the dress thing, that was probably a bad example. Um, but it does translate way beyond clothing for sure. I mean, in the passage I was just reading through, it's like saying, I think it literally means don't uncover their nakedness, but that would imply anything else perverse that would be done to naked people, I would guess. Don't uncover their nakedness is like step one. Don't even be in front of them naked. Exposing someone's transgressions has a time and a place. Yeah, yeah. Matthew 18 process, right? If it uh, if it can't be settled person to person, you bring one or two with you, um, and then eventually it has to go public if there's no repentance. Sexual immorality, yeah, is what it's talking about exactly. First Timothy talks about this in depth. Uncover could also mean discover. True. Yeah, do not discover their nakedness. Yep, happened with Noah and Ham was the perpetrator. there's a lot of speculation over what exactly took place there. I believe there was something very perverse in nature, not just seeing his nakedness, because he woke up and immediately knew what he had done to him. Um, I don't know what happened. I don't want to speculate too much on that, but it is interesting going back to what you're talking about, where the descendants are affected by the actions of the parents. It wasn't even it wasn't even his son that took the punishment for that. I believe it was his grandson. Um, Ham's son was Cush, maybe. I can't remember. Um, Anyways, I can't remember this. But well, that's gonna do it for our reading today. Thanks guys for hanging out. On your way out, hit the like. I'm gonna plan on being here 8 o'clock sharp in the morning, not 8:15. So I hope you'll hit the notification bell on our YouTube channel so that you get the notification. And I'm going to go ahead and schedule that stream so that I'm committed. Okay, so Canaan was his grandson, right? And that's who the punishment was on. Or maybe Canaan was his son, and Cush was his grandson. No, I think it was the other way around. I'm about to uncover this cookies and cream protein bar. Yeah, brother, I know. And I'm being humbled in public with my lack of discipline in not being punctual or consistent. And I unfortunately I did better working for somebody else when it comes to, I'm on my own time slot now, and I do better at wanting to not let other people down sometimes than I do for just doing the right thing because it's good for me. So you guys are a blessing to me, and you're helping hold me accountable to doing this each day. So I appreciate that. Praise God. Thank you, JS Genesis. All right. Bless you guys. 8 o'clock. I will see you in the morning. Shalom.